A continuación, tenemos el honor de presentar a Patrick Crowe, International Sales Manager en Tekscan. Patrick nos guiará a través de una exploración detallada de la tecnología de mapeo de presión en su presentación y workshop titulado Pressure Mapping Technology for the Analysis of Gait, Foot Function and Balance. En esta sesión se enfocará en cómo esta tecnología puede aplicarse al análisis de la marcha, la función del pie y el equilibrio. Sin más preámbulo, démosle una cálida bienvenida a Patrick Crowe.
Wait, thank you, Andrea. Okay, my name is Patrick Crowe. I'm from Tekscan out of Boston, Massachusetts, USA. HCG Technologies has been my representative from Mexico for the last 3 years. And I thank them for inviting me to this first ever Motion Science Summit. What I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to review the technology that we manufacture in Massachusetts that Tekscan makes. It's called pressure mapping or baropodometria. And, you know, I'm going to do a little bit of PowerPoint. I'm going to talk a bit, but eventually I'm going to demonstrate these systems. These three gentlemen in the front, Dr. Rady Gonzalez and his two colleagues, they're going to help me demonstrate. So really, our technology uses these little sensors. They're piezoresistive sensors. When you apply force, like you're changing the resistance, okay? That's the principle of how this works. So there's rows going this way, columns going this way. So it's a matrix, an array. So there's like thousands of individual sensors, okay? This is an example of an in-shoe sensor. It goes inside the shoe, sometimes on top of the insole, on top of the plantilla. This is used in USA, for example. Many universities with gait labs use this technology together with Vicon, force plates, EMG. So this is one example. Another system I'll show you is this platform which you can stand on and look at balance, postural sway, or you could walk on it and just look at foot function, very simple foot function. So I'm going to demonstrate this and this. And a third system that I don't have with me is a very long platform. You can take multiple steps down. So those are examples of systems used in biomechanics gait labs that Tekscan makes. Of course, any other pressure measurement application that you can think of, we also have products for. For example, if you're lying on the mattress on the bed, or if you're sitting on the wheelchair or the seat of your car, the companies that design the seats for the automobiles, they might measure the pressure when you sit down. Grip pressure, if you grab something, we have a sensor that can go on the hand if you want to measure the pressure. So any application you can think of where you want to map pressure, we have a solution for it. But today I'm going to focus on what's typically used in motion science, which is the small platform and the in-shoe system. This is called the F-Scan Go, and I'm going to present a small PowerPoint. What I can tell you is Dr. Gonzalez, for example, he uses an older version of this. The product has improved a lot over the years. For example, the first version of this, the patient would walk and they'd have the cable behind them, right? And then we went to a untethered system where they had a unit on the waist and a cable that went up the leg. And now today, as you'll see from Dr. Gonzalez, it's just a cuff. So there's only electronics on the ankle. That's going to communicate by Wi-Fi. I have this router set up, so it's going to communicate through the router to the computer in real time. If he wanted to go outside the building and run around, there's a micro SD card inside, so it's going to collect the data. When he comes back within range, automatically it uploads the data. So one of the great things about this new F-Scan, it scans the frequency, the measurement frequency, the data acquisition frequency. It happens very quickly. So if you wanted to run, it would capture the data very quickly. So this could be ideal for sports. Certainly a lot of universities do research. They look at sports, for example, there was a university in USA that studied people jumping over the hurdles in track. Do they land on their heel? Do they land more on their midfoot or their forefoot? So that's an example of a research study. Clinically, that system is used a lot with diabetic patients who have neuropathy. You might even see a doctor use this on the patient initially to see where the high pressures are under the feet, and then design a plantilla to offload the pressure, to reduce the pressure, to redistribute the pressure off the high pressure areas. And then they can test with the in-shoe system. So they could look at pre-post to see that the pressure, was it reduced? And that's how you've used it, right? You've used your F-scan with plantillas, yeah. Yeah, so there's certainly a lot of clinical uses in hospitals. Like I said, a lot of universities will use it. And there are universities that also want to synchronize the data capture of this F-scan with Vicon, for example. So we sell a trigger sync bundle, so you could, for example, press record in the Vicon, and it sends a signal to tell the Tekscan to also start recording at the same time. So they record in sync. So this is also possible to synchronize all of these technologies with Tekscan. So I'm just going to go through this short PowerPoint. And so basically, this is F-scan Go. I mean, look, the systems have been available for just about a year. And, you know, these systems are used in hospitals. They're medical devices. They have to go through a lot of testing, you know, regulatory compliance testing. All of that's happened. We have two versions of software, FootView and FootView Pro. I'm going to talk about FootView Pro today because that's what a university would use. A private clinic might use the basic FootView. FootView Pro allows you to export the raw numerical data into Excel, into MATLAB, for example. So it has additional research features. Modern system case that you can carry. So everything goes in this case. It's very easy to transport the system. Like I said, there's an external trigger. So this is what I was just talking about. We have a small mat called the mobile mat. You can stand on it, look at balance, postural sway. You can walk over it, but only with one foot because it's small. And then we have this much longer platform called Strideway. You can take multiple steps. It calculates the stride length. So this is more for gait analysis, whereas this is more foot function analysis. And then this is what we can use in the lab or outside. You could wear this playing soccer. You could run around the track. And we'll be talking about this first. So F-scan Go, like I said, it's the next generation. We call these the cuffs. This is really the hardware when we talk about a pressure mapping system. It's hardware, software, and the sensors. The sensors are reusable up to 20 tests, and then you throw them out and use new ones. And this is the hardware and the software here. So just what the market needed was something cord-free. So as I said, we used to have a cable, a cord. We no longer do. It's quick setup. This is going to use Wi-Fi. We're going to look at pressure, force, you know, temporal gait parameters like cadence. This is what's included in the kit. So I actually have it right here. So we have battery chargers. These are lithium polymer batteries. They'll last for a few hours, then you recharge it. This is the router. This is the hardware. You can see everything that's included. There's a micro SD card, 32 gigabytes. So if you want to go outside and run around the building, you can do that. And that's the case. That's what it comes in. This is the old system. So Dr. Gonzalez and, you know, other universities in Mexico have used this. You had to wear this unit on the back. You had these little Ethernet cables down to the leg. You had to tether that there. now this is what we have today. So much better, improved. This is how the data gets transmitted. So there's a router that I plugged in. It's going to communicate through the router. So we're going to see it in real time. Once we connect him, we're going to see his foot pressures in real time. This is just to show you some of the new functions, new features. So we have a much faster recording speed, as I mentioned, 500 hertz. We can also adjust the sensitivity of the sensor. As the sensors become older, they might become less sensitive. You can make it more sensitive. Or the sensors are trimmable, I should mention. I already cut these to his shoe size. But let's say you had a child, like a small boy or girl, and you cut these to a small size. You might have them wear it, and you don't see a lot of pressure because they don't weigh a lot if it's a boy or girl. So with sensitivity adjustment, you can actually make it more sensitive, so it detects small children. So yeah, that's what the old system. So we used to have an option of Wi-Fi only or data logger. Today we have Wi-Fi as well as the micro SD card in one system. We can show real-time data during the recording, very fast scan speed, 500 hertz. This is good for jumping, running. We can go in and out of the range of the PC. The connection and data upload will reconnect automatically. So as I mentioned, this is our new system. It's cordless, high sampling rate, onboard storage for extended range, freedom of movement, unique information, versatile. This is the sensor here. It is trimmable. There's lines on the sensor that show you where to cut. Now this is going to show US sizes. So 8, 10, 12, whatever the USA size is. It shows men's, ladies, boys, girls sizes. You just get a scissors, you cut it. We make only this sensor. So this is both a left and a right, depending on how you position it. The software is going to recognize it as a left or right. But very high resolution. What that refers to is there's many sensors. There's 4 sensors per square centimeter. So you can look at the pressure under the bones, under the metatarsal bones in the foot. It gives you very good detail. So, and you know, as far as how it compares to our previous sensor, it is a little bit thicker, so it's more durable, but it's still very thin because we know if the sensor's too thick, it might last longer, but then it'll affect how somebody walks. You know, we want them to be not really aware, you know, we don't want it to affect the gait. So it's a very thin sensor intentionally. So we say thinnest sensor on the market. And this is the software. So as I mentioned, this FootView Pro is for researchers, universities. FootView is more for clinical people. So the researchers usually want to do export ASCII. They want to synchronize, for example, with Vicon. They also want the higher measurement frequency. And that's a look at the software, and I'll do a live demonstration here in the next minute. People like Dr. Gonzalez, they know that our old software looked the same for maybe 20 years. It just looked old. And now the new software has a more modern look. It looks how software should look. So, you know, we'll talk about this more, but as I think you know, this is showing pressure distribution. Red is high pressure. Blue is low pressure. So it's a color scale. And we have the force, the gait curve here. And this is an example of a patient. So we could enter the name of a patient, and then all the recordings for that patient go here. So for example, diabetic patient, I mentioned that, soccer player, basketball player. Import F-scan database. So somebody like Dr. Gonzalez, he can press a button in this new software and it's going to import all the old movies. If he has 10 years worth, 1,000 movies that are old movies, it's going to automatically import it into the new program here. So you just press this button, import classic F-scan database. And that's just an example. So like I said, we can adjust sensitivity. We'll look at some of the functions. For example, a clinical person wants to press a few buttons and get a report very quickly. Somebody doing research might export data to Excel or MATLAB and do some further analysis. But the clinical users need something that's fast. And so we have buttons built into the software. For example, they press a button, it divides the foot up, it shows the graph, it gives you a report, and that's it. So we'll review some of that today. So basically, there's two automatic analysis protocols. 3-box divides the foot up into the different regions, and peak pressure is what you might use on a diabetic patient or somebody with neuropathy who has foot ulcers. It's going to show you where the highest pressure is. So if you're giving them special footwear or insoles, plantillas, you want to make sure that you offload, reduce the pressure here. And we can measure the pressure. It's telling us, not only showing us red color, but it's giving us the actual number. This is in PSI. You can also show it in kilopascal, any unit you want. And these are just examples of reports. And that's what I was referring to when I said ASCII export. So you press a button and it's going to automatically export all the numerical data into Excel. And that's what a lot of universities do. For synchronizing, you can set it up so that when it receives a positive, like a rising voltage signal, it starts recording. Yeah, and you can, so as far as some of the applications, of course, gait analysis, but wound care, working with patients who are diabetic. Of course, this is used in research, not only universities, but companies like Saucony, Nike, Puma, they're going to use it for product R&D. So they can use it for that. Orthopedics, physical therapy, rehab, of course, sports medicine and performance. So biomechanics researchers, gait labs. We have a lot of existing F-scan users. In Mexico, we have universities that use F-scan, and they're able to trade in their old system, and they can get the new system. I mentioned footwear designers. All right, that's it. So that was just a little presentation, but I want to actually show you guys some stuff today. So I'm going to have you just come up here, Dr. Gonzalez. All right, I'm going to turn these on, so just go over. All right, so these have batteries inside of them. I don't know if you guys can see this in the back there, but just kind of face that way. So I just turn this on, and go ahead and turn on that one for it. You reach down and turn it on. Yes, you did. Yes, yeah, all of that. Okay, perfect. Okay, so these are on. Last 2.5 hours. Let me charge the batteries. Hey, so I'm going to just have them walk. So, sorry. Wow. These sensors get calibrated. Like I said, if you press on these sensors, it's a piezoresistive sensor. It's just changing the resistance. But we want pounds, kilograms, PSI, kilopascal. So we need to calibrate the sensor. So to calibrate, we need to take a known force, like the patient's body weight. So I asked you your body weight. It's about 170 pounds. So I'll enter his weight, and then when he walks, it's going to automatically calibrate. So it'll give us very accurate information. Thank you. Okay. Right. Dr. Gonzalez, how does that feel? I mean, compared to the system you have today, it's easier to, there's less stuff, right?
Well,
Easier, yeah.
right.
No cables. Good.
It's gonna be
All right. So as I mentioned, these are very thin sensors. I mean, there's other, systems in the market that are much thicker, a little bit different. We make this thin on purpose, and it is reusable. I'm just going to pass this around. I just want you guys to see how thin that is. So it's, like I said, it's called piezoresistive, and there's thousands of little sensors. And we make that, we manufacture that outside of Boston, Massachusetts. I mean, people see me at shows and they ask me, where do you make that? In China or something? No, we make that right in Massachusetts. So if you ever visit my factory, you'll see where we're making like hundreds of those a day. Oh, sure. Okay, so I'm not going to enter your name, Dr. Gonzalez. I'm just going to call you patient number 1. Okay. And then I'll say new recording.
yep. And
So it's connecting the Wi-Fi right now. It's just taking a second, but the cuffs are turned on.
okay.
Okay. 1 second.
There.
Just like,
I've just happened. I don't do anything. But I step on something. And here. Yeah, yes, I want to see that. Yeah, I'm sweating.
okay.
Let's go.
Just give it a second. All right, just one moment. But how do the sensors feel in your shoes? Do they feel wrinkled, or are they okay? Yeah. Okay. So this is real time. Center of force, center of difference. So just rock back and forth on your heels. All right. Okay. So when we talk about, you know, the the pressure measurement, you know, right now it says raw on the far right. It's 8-bit pressure resolution, so 0 to 255, 256 levels. And we're going to calibrate this. So after we calibrate it, it'll say PSI or kilopascal. But this is the great thing is if you're using it, you don't have to send it back to my factory for calibration. You're going to calibrate this whenever you want, as often as you want. This will automatically calibrate. I'm going to enter his body weight. Just give me 1 second. So I'm just choosing calibration, walk calibration. He's about 170 pounds. And if I want to take a recording, I can decide how long I'd like to record for. Right now it's 12 seconds at 100 hertz. So that means the movie is going to be 1200 frames. But you can, record for much longer if you want. Okay. Give it 1 second. Yeah, just walking. All right. Time. Give me 1 second. Right, Dr. Gonzalez, do you mind just coming back here? So I'm going to have you do the that other calibration that we talked about. So just maybe stand on your left foot if you can. Okay. And yeah, now we'll do the right. You know, stand on your right. Okay. All right. Okay, right. As we calibrate. All right, so just second. Seconds. All right, so I'm just looking at real time. This is the force first time. You can see that. Okay, so this is all real time, but I'd like to record you. So just right now, I'm just going to close these windows and go ahead and just walk down. So right now it's recording. You can see recording in progress at the bottom. So again, red is high pressure, blue is low pressure. This is measuring, it's going to give us pressure, peak pressure, average pressure, force, contact area. And that was a short recording, only 10 seconds. So now it says downloading in progress. So it's quickly downloading. Okay, so now it's finished. And now we'll kind of do some analysis. So like I mentioned, there's some quick buttons we can press to just get some data on the screen and get a report. So I'm going to do that now. So for example, the 3-box graphs, what this is going to do, he took several steps, but it's going to average those steps and exclude the first and last step. So it's not going to count step 1 or 9. It's just going to give you the average of steps 2 through 8. And the same for the left foot. Okay. So it gives us these graphs. And, you know, if I was just going to, I guess, interpret this a little bit, when we talk about this gait curve, you know, the first hump is the heel strike, and this is mid stance, and then this is toe off. And, you know, that's more or less a normal gait curve. The second hump is higher than the first. It's, you know, sort of a smooth up, smooth down. This is the left foot only in green, and we can see this box around the heel, a box around the forefoot. And what's good is that where these intersect is at about 40%. This is 40%, into the stance phase. So if we talk about the stance phase of gait while the foot's on the ground, these curves cross at 40%. This is the left foot, but also on the right foot, they cross at 40%. So his timing is very similar. It's very symmetrical. He has high pressure here, the second MPJ. We can just quickly look at some numbers and get a report as well. So for example, gait parameters table, his cadence, step time, gait cycle time. The symmetry index or the symmetry indices show that he's not as symmetrical, for example, on his swing phase. We can export this to a report or just export it to Microsoft Word. So this will be a 3-box report. I could just put in my own name. And yeah, it's going to generate the report. So this happens in Microsoft Word. Like I said, you could also, as a university researcher, they would want to export the data to Excel. But a clinical person want to quickly get a report. So it's going to open this in Microsoft Word. And it's doing that right now. So you see, this is what it gives us. So, we could have like a logo or something in the header. So this is an averaged left foot strike, averaged right. We can see the pressure profile. What I can tell you is that Dr. Gonzalez has more force on his left heel, slightly more, and more on the left metatarsal. So his left forefoot is more. So the goal is to have more symmetry. I mean, a little bit asymmetrical, but the gait curves look similar to each other. You see how when he's walking, this is normal. If you watch like a old person walk, they might just kind of shuffle along and they're going to have more of a flat curve. But he has a nice active propulsive phase. You can see that hump. All right, so that's just an example. Okay, so that's F-Scan Go. That's in-shoe, that's Wi-Fi, that can go outside. It can collect data on the micro SD card. I want to switch over to the mobile mat. So you can turn those off. Yeah, thank you. Basically, the mobile mat is going to use different softwares. This is the name of the platform. It actually says mobile mat, but it's available with 3 different softwares. So like the price is determined by that. Just to kind of mention that we have actually like a retail version where if you want to use this in a store, in a shoe store, you don't need kilopascal. You don't want to calibrate. You just want something simple with color. So we have a very basic version. Then we have a clinical version, and we have a research version that I'll show you. Yeah, so you're going to walk this way. But I got to connect it, though. One second. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to connect stuff. It's a little difficult. Yeah. Move closer.
Like that. That's perfect. Where's it? Perfect.
There. Thank you. So FootMat software, and we're just going to look at dynamic. I'm sorry, Jose? Jose, yeah, we're going to watch Jose walk, and I'll show you some similar measurements. We'll focus more on pressure this time. So I can enter his name in the patient list, Jose, but I'll just use patient number 1. Go ahead and stand on it. I'm sorry, just stand on it for a sec. It doesn't measure the weight. We're going to calibrate it, and then it'll measure weight. So we'll calibrate it to your weight, and then if she steps on it, it's going to tell us her weight. but we're going to calibrate with you. Okay. So look, I mean, this is just weight distribution. He has more on the left, 60-40. You can see like it's not quite 50-50. Yeah, this is the center force. That's real time. And you can even compare to the examples on the right. That's like you can't really see it, but a normal foot. So Jose sort of has a high arch, right? If you look at the bottom, he's more like that. Yeah, you have high arches. I mean, right now when you stand, you have high arches. Yeah. So right now but we'll have you walk on it, so you can step off. I'm sorry. How much do you weigh in pounds? Do you know? 220. Okay.
That's
Yeah, más o menos. So. Yeah, right. 220. All right. So, just like we talked about, I guess, just start with the left foot. Or start with the right. Yeah, so right and then alternate. Yeah. But walk at your normals. Is this your normal speed? That's how fast you walk? Okay, so just... No, it's okay, yeah. It's difficult. I know. I'm sorry. Keep going. So it's collecting data right now, and it's going to automatically calibrate as well, and then it will tell us the pounds or the kilograms.
right.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. All right. So it calibrates, and I can just play the movie back right here. I'm gonna look at a graph. Yeah. And I can, look at it in 3D, stuff like that. But what I'll do is I'll use those buttons that I talked about and just automatically, quickly get some data. So I'm going to press the peak pressure button, and I'm going to press this peak pressure tables. So this is comparing his left and right foot. Usually we use peak pressure to compare pre-post, like before and after orthotics. But we can see, for example, his left foot, this is the peak pressure. For most people, it's on the second MPJ, the ball of the foot. 47, 59, that's PSI. That's pounds per square inch, but you can change it to kilopascals, whatever units you want. So we have, here it is. Average pressure, peak pressure, pressure time integral, peak pressure gradient. These are all interesting measurements. The peak pressure gradient, what that means is when it goes from low pressure to high pressure, it's better that it happens gradually. It's a shallow, the more steep, it's like a mountain, the more steep it is, the more dangerous, the more likely a diabetic patient is to ulcerate. So that's why we're looking at peak pressure gradient. So you would like to reduce peak pressure gradient if you're treating the patient with orthotics, plantillas. And you can do a report. And what I'm doing here is, this is dynamic. We just had Jose walk. After this, I'm going to show a different software. We're just going to focus on postural sway, balance, equilibrio, but that's it. So it spits out the report. So it's all quick. They walk, you press a few buttons, it gives you the information. Some of these systems, like the Tekscan, are used by universities. This is one that even a private clinic might get because it's a lower price. There's no consumables. You don't have to replace the sensor, right? So there's some advantages. Of course, there's some things you can't do. You might notice when he walks, maybe he goes like this. It's not so natural because he's adjusting his step. So we have this. We also have a much longer platform, but this is meant to be something simple and portable. So it's called the mobile mat. Yeah, and that's the report. So we can see the difference in pressure between left and right and where your peak pressures are. I don't know, does it feel like that's where your pressure is? Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna switch over to a different software. Thank you, Jose. Gracias. All right, so we have something called Sports AT. And you can keep your shoes on. It's okay, you can leave your shoes on. Because we're just gonna look at balance. This is a different software. Again, it works with the mobile mat. It looks different. We call it Sports AT. We developed this maybe 6 years ago, and we were thinking of athletic trainers in USA, like at the big universities, because they deal with American football players that get concussions, right? And so we have a very specific test. Dr. Marcos yesterday mentioned SCAT, like the Sports Concussion Assessment Tool. So we have a test here, and it's done on concussed athletes. So, for example, at the beginning of the season, before they hurt themselves, you get their baseline score. And then after a concussion, you test them. And we're going to do the test with you. It's 3 different positions. You're going to stand like this, eyes closed. And when you do this, this detects if your foot comes off the mat, and it calls it an error, like a mistake. So we call it BESS, Balance Error Scoring System. We did not develop this. This was developed by a university 10 years ago, but we made it so our baropedometry mat automatically does it. So we'll check your balance. 1 second. I'm sorry, what is your name again? Maxim? Max, okay. Best. All right, let's do this real quick. Dictation.
It's your last night. Oh, still have Santa. No, I was weird. My soldiers are. Which day work? Like my day, yeah, mine are. By them. No, that's it. It's not good.
Yeah. Okay. So, like we talked about, stand with your feet together. Okay, so
I'm so freaking thin now.
1 second. It's just 1 second. So it's just a bug. I'll start again. All right. Yeah, go ahead and stand on it. Okay. So what this does, the first test is very easy. He's going to close his eyes, but his hands are going to be like this. His score is going to be perfect, probably. It'll be 0. Like 0 is good. It means you have no mistakes. But he's also healthy. He doesn't have a concussion. So the idea is if you get concussed, it'll affect your balance. So this is 20 seconds. His eyes are closed. And like I said, if he goes like this, it'll count that as an error. But I think his score will be perfect because it's easy to do this. But the second test is very difficult. All right.
Word to is no.
Okay. Okay. And so, yeah, like I said, so 0. So he had 0 mistakes. The second one, you're going to stand on your non-dominant leg, right? And then, yeah, and close your eyes. Yeah, so it's very difficult. So now he's going to have a lot of mistakes. So he'll be falling over, I think. All right, ready, set, go. Yeah, even now, the software is going to, it looks at how much movement of the center of force, and it calls that. So the way this test was done historically in USA is you would look at the person, there would be no pressure mat. It would just be a person, and you'd have a stopwatch. You'd count 20 seconds, and you'd watch them. And maybe I would count 5 mistakes. He might count 3 mistakes. You know, now the machine, this does it automatically, so it's you know, it's more objective. All right, so that would be, did you finish it? All right, so, okay. What happened? Okay, single leg sister. Okay, right. Yeah, so go, I'm sorry, try it, yep, okay. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good. Right, right. Yep, keep going. Oh, almost, 2 more seconds. And so it's showing us eight mistakes, and this is when you came off the mat right here. Yep, and then the last one, diagonal. Yep, heel to toe. Okay, and then eyes closed. Okay. And so again, this is done on athletes like football players who have concussions at universities. It can be used for not only concussions, but you know, before and after ACL repair, any type of ankle instability, it can be used for that. Okay, so 5. And then of course, foam means if we put foam on, it's very difficult then if you put foam. Okay, so I just want to show that. So this is all Sports AT, and then within Sports AT, we have this other program where we can just look at postural sway. So I'm going to have you stand on this. Go ahead and stand. So firm surface, eyes open, dress shoes. Okay, so go ahead and stand on it. All right, and so that's, we see a center of pressure or center of force. You can, okay, and then of course, like somebody mentioned yesterday, green is good, red is bad, yellow's okay. We're trying to get 50-50. This shows the center of force excursion. We have this something you can kind of use for balance training. This is the balance compass. I mean, the more back on the heels you are, the more blue you see. The more forward you are, you see more brown. And this is all in real time. We can, of course, record. So do this, Max. Just try to be still, eyes open. I'll record you for like 10 seconds, and then we'll, yeah, that's fine, because I forget his last name. Luis from this university, he presented, he was talking about postural sway. So I want to show that output. Okay, so just recorded. And I'm going to play this back. And then we can kind of look at this. Let's do that. Okay, so in the previous presentation, we heard about postural sway. You know, the force plate was used, right? This is a pressure mat, baropodometria. But you can also quantify the ellipse, the area of the ellipse, the length of the center of force path. You can see the trajectory. You know, you can see all this information as well as velocity. So if you want to look at the velocity of that center of force, you can do all of that. So quantifying postural sway, we can do that with this, as well as the concussion test, very specific balance tests. Thank you. Thank you, Max. I appreciate that. So I just wanted to show that. I just want to show something else. So this is the mobile mat. You can walk on it. You can stand on it. We talked about the F-scan. We have another technology that's used in labs for motion analysis. And it's a much longer platform. And I don't have it with me because it's so big, but it's something that we have in Mexico. We have a few universities that already use it. And let me just talk about what it looks like. So we call it the stride way. And look, I'm sure you've seen something similar, but this, where this is really different, the stride way can be made is much longer than this. This is a short one. You know, it's used with children before and after surgery. So children might walk on their toes, or they might have problems, and they're using this to evaluate the gait of children. So it's high resolution. It's available in different resolutions and really different sizes. So it's modular. You have these different tiles that connect to each other. So you could make something that's 6, 7, 8 meters long, or you could get something that's only 2 tiles and it's very short. But it's very easy to connect. But what it does, because it's so long, you can look at stride length, somebody running, but it also gives you the pressure and the force. So the thing about small mats and force plates, they're not long enough to capture a lot of spatial temporal parameters, stride length, stride velocity. So it does all of that. It gives you force and pressure, but it also gives you velocity, step width, foot angle, any gait parameter you can think of. Of course, nothing upper body related. And I just wanted to kind of show the output from that software. So it's called the Stride Way. And so, for example, this is like a normal person right here. You know, I can slow that down. And so I just press this little button, this little man, little hombre. I just press that, and it's going to automatically identify left and right foot, and it's going to generate these tables that tell me how many steps, what the cadence is, really any gait parameter that I might want. We have stride time, stride length. Down here we have the maximum force, we have pressure, because it does have thousands and thousands of those individual sensors. We have gait cycle, we have symmetry. I just want to show you that. And then I'll just kind of show you an example of another one. This is a patient, or this is somebody with shuffling gait. They take very short steps. You can see that. So it looks different. And I'm going to compare the two in a report. So you can see that much shorter steps, walking more slowly. And so what it does now, it's comparing both to each other. So for example, in the first example, somebody walking normally, their cadence is 104.9. I know from textbooks on clinical gait that 90 to 120 is the normal range for cadence. So this is the person with the shuffling gait has a cadence of 75.8. And if I just want to get a quick report, I press this report button, and again, it's going to generate that in Microsoft Word. Okay, I'll call it Dr. Crowe, University of Massachusetts, normal walk, shuffling gait. Okay. All right, so I just want to I already have reports saved, but I just want to kind of show you how it creates the report. So again, I don't have this with me. It's the Strideway. It's a very long platform. We do have some systems in Mexico at universities, and it's also used for veterinary. In fact, we have a veterinary user. We have a few in Latin America. So dogs and cats, they might have them walk down the platform and they can measure them before and after surgery. They can detect lameness in one of their limbs. All right, so it just takes a second, but it's a 7-page report. It's generating all these parameters. So there's a lot of information, a lot of numbers, but there's some nice visual, illustrations that define different sort of gait parameters, and I'll show you that. All right. Second. Okay. All right, just 1 second here. Almost. All right, so going to the top of the report, we're comparing the pressure profiles, normal walk, shuffling gait. You can see the high arches. You can see all the individual sensors that I talked about. It's a very high resolution sensor. The normal person, the normal walk has a nice normal gait curve, smooth up, smooth down. You have this valley right here. This is normal. This is not normal. The person of shuffling gait is just shuffling along, right? They're not pushing off. So very big difference. We can see a much higher contact time for the shuffling gait because their foot's in contact, right? They're walking slowly. They have much lower cadence. Yeah, you can see the cadence, 75.8. So I like these little illustrations that kind of show what's meant by single support, double support phase. So it's like something you could see in a biomechanics like textbook, just good illustrations. We have foot angle, stride length, and then what the symmetry indices tell us if what we want to see is a very short bar. If it's a wide bar, like for example, here on active propulsion time, it's very asymmetrical. There's a much greater value on the left foot than right foot. So this is more ideal. The heel contact times for the normal gait as well as the shuffling gait are very symmetrical. So the goal is to have this 0.0. This is perfect symmetry. This is not symmetrical. This is very asymmetrical. And you can just make some comments, make it a PDF, email it. So that's just an overview of that. And we talked about this Strideway. It's available in different lengths. This is a 4-tile. So each of these is 0.65 meters long. But you can get much longer if you want. You can get shorter. But the idea is when you walk on this, you can't measure the stride length. It's just one step. So if you want multi-steps, you would get that. If you're somebody working with small animals, a veterinarian, university that teaches veterinarians, they would get this and they could use it with dogs. There's a little button here that says quadruped. So it's a whole different set of calculations and parameters if you have 4 limbs, right? If it's an animal with 4 limbs, or even like a A biped would be like a turkey, an ostrich, a chicken, right? So biped, quadruped, human, different sets of parameters and tables, and that's all done in the stride way. So, yeah, just to recap, we talked about F-Scan. That's really the new product. I know Dr. Gonzalez is interested. He uses the old F-Scan today. The mobile mat is something really simple. I think it's more accessible to a lot of people. It's a lower price. There's no replacement sensor costs. It's very easy. You can look at balance, postural sway, foot function. And then if you want to look at more gait analysis, we offer this much longer platform. And this is all technology that's used in universities, used for motion analysis. So I'm early by 10 minutes, I think. So, okay. Yep. Okay, any questions? Preguntas?
Thank you for the presentation. It was so cool. I wanted to ask, so first in the PowerPoint,
Yeah.
you said that some of the applications of this can be used in the areas like R&D.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask about some example and maybe explain a little bit more about how did the process go or how did it in general go, like the R&D.
So R&D, there's companies, I guess lately companies have been developing exoskeletons. There's even some sort of military applications, and so they might want to measure the efficacy of some orthopedic device or exoskeleton. They want to look at pressure and force under the feet, so they could use it for that. Another thing that's come up in the last year or so, when they're making plantillas, they're specifically 3D printing. So they're looking at 3D printed orthotics. And so they just want to use this technology to measure pressures inside the shoe to test some insole, plantilla, orthopedic device. So a lot of times it's for that. Drug companies, I mean, sometimes the efficacy of a drug, a treatment for Parkinson's patients, if I have a short step and a short cadence, like I'm walking slowly, as I improve. So if a Parkinson's person is walking like this, short steps, and they get better, they're going to take longer steps. So you can quantify those improvements in stride. You can quantify if they're walking faster, because you're expecting that some drug you give them will help with them walking slowly. So they're going to hopefully walk faster. So measuring outcomes. So an orthopedic device or a pharmaceutical, a drug, will have some effect on the gait, which could be the stride length, the velocity, or pressure and force. And so we're measuring that objectively in this software.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Or one question. Are you okay?
Yep. Jose, what did you think of it? Is it realistic to ask a person to walk like that? Is that something easy?
Okay. I think it was very difficult to accustom yourself to do the walking in the little rectangle.
Okay, yeah.
But if you had a larger
Yeah, platforms, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
you could do the walking more naturally.
Right, exactly, yeah. That's a good point. Yeah.
That's right.
All right.
Maybe if you standardize the space where you locate the mobile mat previous to the testing,
Yep.
you could more easily accustom the patient to do the steps necessarily for the evaluation.
Yeah. Yeah. Usually a clinic thinks about where they're going to place that, and it's thin enough, it's low profile, so you don't have to embed it into the ground like a force plate, but you have this hump here, but otherwise, yeah, clinics are able to use it. Yeah.
Also, I think that the visual, I don't know how to explain it. It's difficult to adapt yourself to do the step in the center of the mat because you're seeing the mat.
Yep.
It's different when you use the dynamometric platform.
Okay.
You don't see it, and
Oh, good
you
point.
naturally walk over the platform
Right. Okay.
without being
Yeah.
overly
Yeah.
cautious of it.
Yeah, and so some of our customers cover it up. We have a lot of veterinary applications. So, for example, some universities work with horses. They have a horse walk over, not this, but we have a bigger one for horses. And if the horse sees the color, it affects them. They have to cover it, yeah. So.
When I was doing the walking, I feel obligated to step in the center of the
Okay, that's a good
of
point.
the platform
Yeah.
and subconsciously try to do that.
Yep.
And maybe that was the reason that some steps were a little different than
Yep.
the others.
All right, that's a good point. Yeah. All right, and then, yeah, so. Yep.
Yeah, there, please.
Hello.
Hello.
Just one question. For example, like this is, or the purpose of the platform is focused, or the insoles is focused a little bit more for gait analysis. What about like running or something where they put more pressure on the like impacts? Does it has a limit, or it's not recommended?
No, there's no, well, first of all, so unlike with older versions of F-scan, with this version of F-scan specifically, you can adjust the sensitivity. So what you might do for, running is, or somebody's jumping off a tall building, I mean, you want to adjust the sensitivity. The sensor will saturate if it's too sensitive for a certain application. It's not going to measure any higher. So it's not going to damage the sensor, but it could saturate the sensor. So what you would do before you even calibrate it, you would do a few running tests and determine how much you have to adjust the sensitivity. So there's a button in the software, like a slider button. You can take the sensitivity down. You'll make it less sensitive so that it can measure a higher peak pressure. So that's how you would do it. Furthermore, we have for the current F-scan, the old F-scan, we had a sport version of sensor with additional lamination on top of the sensor to make it more tough, more rugged. And we're also introducing a sport sensor for this new F-scan. So two things: adjust the sensitivity, get the sport sensors, and also we give you the ability to increase the frequency, the measurement frequency, to the maximum, which is 500 hertz. Because if you're running, you want to capture very quickly. So you can absolutely study running. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
One
Yep.
last question. Yeah.
Well, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
I think it's interesting the measurement of the center of pressure when I was standing on the mat.
Mm-hmm.
As you tell us that we can compare the gait in this stride way, thus we can compare the movement of center of pressure in the other software. For example, if I measure the center of pressure of a patient, and after the treatment I measure again,
Mhm.
and can I compare these two
Yeah.
measurements between
Yes.
them with the software?
Absolutely, yeah. Yep. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, perfect. Thank you, Dr. Patrick.
Thank
An applause, please.
Yeah. Oh my God.